We are on air. This episode of LedgerCast is brought to you by Nexo. Go to ledgerstatus.com/Nexo to check it out. They offer crypto lending. You can use cryptocurrencies as collateral. Most recently, PaxG, which is really cool, which is a gold token. And you can deposit that on Nexo and take a loan out. If you can't repay that loan, then they'll take your collateral if the price gets too out of whack. But it's a really cool service, and you should check it out. Go to ledgerstatus.com/Nexo to learn more about it. And thanks to Nexo for being a LedgerStatus partner. Now, let's get to the show.
Isn't that how collateral works?
That's how collateral works, but you're supposed to say it.
Also, are they still our sponsor? I wasn't sure.
They are our sponsor, and we are live right now. And hello, everybody, and welcome to the LedgerCast. My name is Brian Krogsgaard. I'm here with Josh Olszewicz, who I'm not sure he knew he was on air, but he was.
No, I knew. I don't think it matters, right? I mean, this is all. If you want to see how the sausage is made, I mean, this is it, folks. It's right here.
This is it. We're playing with new toys. Hey, Josh, how's it going?
Good, man. The birds are out. You know, the birds are louder than ever. They came out after what is it? Daylight savings. They're not in quarantine.
It's like they just knew they needed to tell everybody else that that they are not social distancing, they're unquarantined, and they're doing fine.
Well, it's like mating season for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess that's spring things, right?
Not that
what
I
they
would
do.
know, but,
or maybe like the end of winter. Maybe this is more like birthing season.
They're just so loud, you know.
All the spring chicks, you know. So in order to birth the chicks, the action happened a little before. So
how's Alabama? I'm not doxing you, am I?
You're not doxing me. Alabama's doing fine, and it looks like we are live because Sparacado was our first message that I got in chat.
Nice. Are you guys officially social distancing, or what's your orders?
Apparently, Alabama is maybe the worst at doing the self-isolation stuff in the country. In fact, Jefferson County, I live in Birmingham, is like ranked number 2 in the country for miles traveled per day or something like that. And yeah, so we're not doing the best on that front, but it's okay.
I saw an interesting chart on that. It's like the grocery stores in the South are 2 miles or more away from people in general. So like it's hard to like just say people are moving more in the South, just, you know, simply based on where they live to a food source. It plays a big part in that.
Yeah, you have to go somewhere to get anywhere. You have to drive a bit in most parts of Alabama. I live in one of the hip urban centers where it's quite walkable, but not many places in the state are like that.
I was surprised though, seeing like other states that have lower population diversity than the South, you know, clearly on that chart, they're in quarantine. You know, Montana, Idaho, Arkansas, Michigan, even, you know, parts of northern Michigan are just, there's nobody, right? But I don't know. It was an interesting chart, definitely.
So Josh, is this a podcast about social distancing or a crypto podcast?
I don't know. I mean, that's social distancing is just my life. So
that's
all these people are messaging me and asking, you know,
how do you do this? How are you so successful at this?
Like
this thing of not seeing human beings.
I think it's because a lot of the crypto people are so connected online that I feel like I have a vibrant social life just because I talk to so many people every day. It isn't face to face, but it's you know, it satisfies my social need, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's not for everybody.
Yeah. Well, why don't we dig into the things? Let's start just as a reference point. What the heck is the price of Bitcoin right now? Because it's like a magnet to 6666, it seems.
It's a good number.
It's 6723, 6723, down 1% on the day. Apparently we tapped like 7,200, I guess overnight. I missed it completely. Did you catch any of that? Were you on the bandwagon for the $1,000 move that occurred?
I wasn't. I was off the hedge bandwagon and I was off the short bandwagon. So in that regard, I was on the bandwagon for up, but I wasn't long.
Yeah.
on
Well, this
the
is
long leverage bandwagon.
still just looks like a bunch of sideways chop to me. Like we haven't really determined very much. Although we did get the type of move we talked about last week. I think when we were talking, we were like at 6,500, and by the time I got the show out, we were already tapping 6K. So we got about $500 of what ended up being maybe a $800 move in that time frame. So we got a little bit of action, but it's all still kind of a mess. But we're grinding up. It looks like it's got some down potential for sure to me, if we break down from this wedge or flag or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's what do you think? You got any thoughts on price?
Yeah, so I was watching the 4 hour last week. We were talking about 4 hour Kumo breakout, and then that sort of evolved into a flat head and shoulders that broke down at 6.5. It didn't hit the target, and now it popped back up on April 1st ish, which is quarterly rollover. So now I'm watching the 6 hour cloud. Anytime like a 4 hour or lower time frame fails, I just move up the time frame. So 6 hour cloud is posting bullish Kumo twist soon, with all the other metrics being bullish. So that's
Are you taking
good.
much? Are you like giving that much merit when it's? I feel like we're entering this 2018 potential. Like of just the squeeze, and chop, where things like your trend following strategies that you and I love so much stop working. Are you keeping an eye out for that, for false signals?
I mean, sure, it shot me up earlier this week once, which prevented me from re-entering again. Like I wasn't about to get chopped up a second time, even though I thought we were headed up, based on so I didn't think we were headed up. I thought that if the head and shoulders was invalidated on that right shoulder, that we had a good chance of bullish continuation. So, in the near term, I think things look okay. As far as like zooming out, 7.2 is a really big resistance level on the daily cloud. I haven't looked at the weekly. I haven't looked at the 20 weekly. Where do you know where that's at?
The 20 week, I do not know exactly where it's at, but it's I agree with you on that. Kind of 7,200 to 7,400 is the underside of our over exuberant pump breakdown. That's actually the 20 week is 69.66, but we are on the underside of it. It looks like we did like a wick up into it as resistance, but that 20 weeks flat, and I worry about that as a resistance zone. And on the opposite side of that, the bottom side of the range is like 6,400. So I just feel like we're in jail, and we're not like, we're not on the top floor of jail. Like I'd rather be in 7 to 8K jail than 6 to 7K jail. 6 to 7K jail, it kind of freaks me out being so close to that 6,400 zone, where I feel like we could retest down and, go dance around 5Ks again. I don't like any of that stuff, and I feel like we really need to tackle this 7K and 7,200, get back in that higher level consolidation range, which would require another move up from here. Is basically my TLDR.
Yeah, I mean, trend wise, we're definitely not bullish for sure.
Yeah.
I do think the low time frame trend metrics are flipping neutral to bullish for the first time since the drop, for sure. Another possibility is we get this Adam and Eve situation to 5K, where the bottom of the Eve is 5K, or if even a W, another V. So it's either VV or VU, Adam Eve, or just a regular W, double bottom to 5K. I'd be okay with that. A neckline at 7.2 with an inverted head and shoulders over the next 100 days. That's possible.
Basically, you would be a buyer on reasonable dips. And I misspoke on that 20 week. 7,800 is the 20 week. I think I was talking about the 20 day. I'm looking at that on my phone. I don't want to tax my computer too much while I'm streaming to the world. And then the 200 week is around, I think, 5,600. So as we've talked about before, between the 20 week and the 200 week, when you're over the 20 week, I feel like you're really trending nicely historically with Bitcoin. And the 200 week is our death of Bitcoin savior. So like that establishes my chop range. I'd just rather be at the top end of that. And right now we're smack dab in the middle at 6,400. So like this is all just a garbage zone on a macro scale, but it's tradable if you can dance in that mid 5 to mid 7s type of stuff. I haven't seen that, so that's why I've been looking for what are more high confluence setups that I can look for in alts and just hold spot Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'm not like loading the boat hoping for Mega Moon to 8K or anything here for sure. But I think the next 100 days, so just a few things in the background is Q2 has been the most bullish quarter for all of crypto since the history of time. We'll see if that holds up this quarter, considering all the things that are going on macro-wise.
Yeah, I guess we do have some significant Bitcoin macro stuff coming up.
Yeah, so either it's going to be super bullish or it's going to be it's going to go to zero. That's the general feeling I think amongst a lot of people here. I agree with you. 6.4 is the danger zone level. It's good to see it above 6.4 though. So over the next 100 days, I'm expecting some sort of chart pattern to emerge. Certainly, either it's a bullish reversal pattern like W, the Adam Eve, could be a ascending triangle like it was in 2018, 2019. We could even get a bullish divergence with a lower low below 5K. That would also print a Bollinger Band W, just based on those principles.
Yeah, but you're looking for a high time frame pattern, which right now doesn't exist because all we did was just spike way down.
Right. I'm saying next 100 days.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that doesn't. But consolidating over the next 100 days doesn't make sense with Q2 being bullish historically. So we'll see if that breaks down or not. But
yeah, I mean that gets me back to the legacy correlation. Has anybody made shirts? Those cream shirts like cash rules everything around me, and now it's coronavirus rules everything around me, and maybe our next move. We still seem to be pretty tied to legacy markets. I've seen some pretty interesting correlations, not just to the S&P, but I've actually seen people put Bitcoin next to copper, and Dr. Copper as this predictor of the macro market has always been interesting. Some people have shown good stuff about oil being correlated to Bitcoin. I think what really it gets to is all these markets are going together right now. So in that 100-day period, we should also be getting to some additional knowledge about what the coronavirus situation looks like, whether the United States and other countries are still in lockdown or going back into lockdown. Like there's rumors coming out of China right now and some of that stuff that gets a little dicey. So do you think, how do those correlations play into that macro thesis?
Well, even if there's a cure tomorrow for coronavirus, there's months worth of economic fallout that we're going to have to deal with. So I'm not like incredibly bullish on anything for the next 5 years, probably. Like what's the end game here? Like, yeah, we get rid of coronavirus, but we just destroyed how many millions of people's incomes over the next few months.
Yeah, I think 5 years is maybe if you're talking about like new price discovery in legacy markets, but I think from a sense of where is maximum opportunity, we only really had one leg down so far, but it was a really, really big leg. So the question is, could we do a second or a third leg down before we bottom? And then it's the same thing like we've been talking about with Bitcoin. Things have to find a pattern and work their way up, have a V bottom or a U bottom, grind their way into some sort of positive trend again. So maybe 5 years for them, but maximum opportunity, I think we should see sometime in the next year, optimistically, and maybe like 2 years more typically for a recessionary environment. 5 years would be like we just went through a depression. So, and I have seen a lot of the word depression out there. It's possible. It's not, I wouldn't say it's impossible with an unprecedented stoppage of the economy. I don't know that Bitcoin would, either it dies or it moons in that scenario, because if in a cyclical depression, if it's deflationary, I don't think Bitcoin does great until the recovery starts. If it's inflationary, then Bitcoin, maybe it maintains that buying power argument like we've talked about a lot.
I mean, to have halving happen during this, to have a U.S. election happen during this, the possibilities, the variables are just enormous. You know, like how can they pass $6 trillion worth of uh, anything during, at a transition period? So let's say Trump doesn't get reelected. How does that change everything as far as the stimulus or disaster relief package?
Yeah, there's no real good control here. It's like everything's a variable. There's no control element.
Was I'd have to look at the Hoover and FDR transition, what that was like. I feel like I should know that better than I do. But another thing I'm looking at is the VIX, how the VIX keeps coming down over the past week, which is what you want to see. It's still at 47, but historically, as the VIX peaks and comes down, it's been a recovery period for crypto.
Yeah, absolutely. My dog is making her presence known on the show. Lockdown, it means my kids are here, my wife's here. I see neighbors outside. So we got a lot of activity right now. So if y'all hear my Great Dane, she's just saying hello.
Got to
I don't
give
know
her
if I don't know if she's bullish or bearish.
Some tranquilizer turkey.
She does need some. I don't think it would work. She'd just get more excited. She she once swallowed an entire turkey leg in one motion. Like she dragged it off the counter when we had a bunch of friends over and had fried turkey. Put her paws up, pulled the turkey leg down, and then when she saw that I'd caught her, she slung it up in the air, put her mouth up, and then just swallowed it whole. And I didn't know which part of the turkey it was until 24 hours later it took her, and she just looked at me and she puked it back up completely whole. It was ridiculous. So that's big dogs for you. She's a good girl though. She's 10 years old. So yeah, I love that VIX correlation. I think we were really onto something looking at that one, and we've seen it playing out in the gold market as well. Like gold's still strong as the VIX has struggled to make new highs. And I think that was a tradable signal based on the evidence that you shared and then what we saw in 08 with gold. So I really like that look. Now, one more price thing before we get into some of the news stuff. I was hesitant to get interested in alts because I was like, what the heck is the macro argument for alts right now when we consider what's going on with everything else? Like who wants to invest in, these altcoins? And lo and behold, I got involved in some just because the patterns looked more interesting on the Bitcoin relative pairs. Like I'm looking at the risk reward on Ethereum right now. It's at resistance at the moment, but I tried to snag the double bottom on the higher time frame, like the daily time frame. There's this double bottom going on, and it was really interesting to me. So I got in. It's not. I wouldn't enter it right now because it's not confirmed anything, but I still see the same potential that we talked about last week with the risk reward being good on altcoins. Do you agree with that or disagree with that? Think I'm an idiot for doing it in this fundamental environment or what?
Well, with ETH again, I think it is posting bullish reversal vibes on 4-hour time frame, for example. So we had that flat Kumo at 170 on the 4-hour, and I was talking about some edge to edge move that didn't pan out yet, and it technically got stopped out, which is what like my longs are closed right now on ETH. But yeah, I liked how the daily B bands were squeezing. I like how we're back inside the cloud again. I like how we're setting up for a bullish Kumo breakout by April 6th. I like 170. I like 200. The previous, like before the big down move, there was a consolidation around 200, as there typically is around psychological support resistance. So 170 to 200 wouldn't surprise me. Honestly, it's looking more bullish than bearish right now to me.
Yeah, and it's at 141 right now. And I think even on the USD pair, Ethereum looks a little cleaner than Bitcoin does. Maybe just because there's a larger gap, northward. When it's not like directly at resistance on the USD pair. Like there's some room if it breaks out, like you said, to get like a 20% move or something like that. And a 20% move in Bitcoin right now is a really significant significant clip. So naturally, that leads me to believe that if Ethereum sees positive movement, then the BTC relative pair has opportunity too. And when I look at it on lower time frames, I see potential to get up back to like 0.023 maybe, 0.228, something like that, which isn't a nothing move. It's not like alt season stuff, but it's a swing trade worth taking to me.
Yeah, so I'll get to the BTC side in a minute, but the USD side, and even if you draw it as an ascending triangle, it's points to 200, 196, something like that. I mean, we're making higher lows on the resistance at 145-ish. So draw it as an Adam Eve, draw it as an ascending triangle. I can't draw this in a bearish way. Whereas the BTC side, I could draw it as like a rising wedge, for example, like you mentioned earlier. The BTC charts, just looking at dominance, we might be headed for a golden cross on the 5200. We'll see if that does anything in alt land. But I was looking at Doge this week.
That's on the daily?
On the daily, yeah. Where else do you look at the 5200, Brian?
Well, no. I was looking at the 2200, which is
who looks at the 2200?
Hey man, Johnny Mo hates when I say Bollinger Band midline.
No one who makes money looks at the 2200.
That is verifiably false. But the 20 and the 200 are right next to each other. It's just a faster version of what you get out of the 5200. 5200 is like super confirmation. But the 20 and the 200 day are literally both at 0.0211. Yeah, I mean, you got to get to the whatever that is, fifth decimal to differentiate them. So they're crossing downwards right now, and it's at that resistance.
You're talking about ETH BTC?
ETH BTC on the daily.
Yeah, I'm talking about BTC dominance.
I see.
Anyway, so I'll get to the ETH BTC
similar thing.
chart.
Like the correlations on these altcoins are all significant. So like my exposure, I basically have Ethereum exposure and a little bit of mid cap exposure, but not much. And I don't see the point of saying like I'm going to spread this out right now when Ethereum basically does the same thing as everything else.
I'll agree with that. So I was looking at Doge this week because I wrote an article. So Doge BTC has this really nice 6-month accumulation. Maybe it's going on a year even.
Yeah.
Nearly 300 days.
I feel like it keeps having these fake outs to the upside as a signal for calling all degenerates, and then it just drops back down into that jail zone.
Right. So trade it or don't trade it. I don't care. I see it more as a weather vane for everything else, like we're saying. So anything above 33 sats, a close above 33 sats on the daily is what I'd be looking for as far as like alt season confirmation. Again, Q2 has been the most bullish period for everything, including alts, regardless of how it looks right now. Just that's historically what it's saying. But if we look at the other BTC pairs, even Tezos BTC looks like it's got a falling wedge situation. Tezos BTC is basically at previous all-time high zone.
Yeah, and that's another. I mean, I was previously when I was looking for setups, and I felt like Ethereum wasn't really where I was interested. I was looking to what are the other liquid altcoins. So I feel like if you're looking at Ethereum and you're looking at Tezos and Link and a handful of others, then maybe they'll have some individual setups. I just didn't see enough differentiation between them when I was looking at this round to feel more comfortable about one versus the other. So it just kind of leads me towards going towards the largest cap, most liquid, yada, yada.
Yeah, I agree.
Link does like to outperform everything else when it's bullish, but I wasn't as confident in the pattern that I saw in Link, even though it was similar. It wasn't quite at that same decision point for me.
I'm just looking at ETH BTC now, actually, and the trend metrics want to flip bearish, but it's basically backed inside that previous accumulation zone, the Adam Eve area.
Yeah, it's either going to be an Adam and Eve with a breakup, or it's going to, a double bottom with a breakup, or it's going to convert into just some kind of bearish pennant thing and go down to the death zone back of early 2020 type of stuff.
But I don't see that as a tradable setup. So what you're saying is it's going to go up or down, Brian?
I'm saying it's going to go up and down, but I got in when the risk reward was really good. Now the risk reward is basically right at that resistance. So if I were to try to get back in now, it'd be on the top side of the 200, like 0.02 1.13, or like confirming that Adam and Eve in that zone. And I'm still in it, but I could obviously get stopped out if it goes and makes a new daily low below 0.0204 ish. If I choose to have that significant of a stop. But I think either way, I wouldn't right this moment. But if you get that close above the 200, above the 20, then I think trading Ethereum on the BTC pair on a topside retest of that would be a pretty nice trade setup, because there's a lot of space beyond that.
I guess depends what you define by space. I mean, upside. What's the upside? 0.25.
I wouldn't even have to go that far. I have a red line. I don't know what it goes back to, but the underside of early in the year consolidation, 0.0246. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so there's a yearly pivot there. There's the historic support resistance zone there. Yeah, I don't know. To me, I'd rather just trade the USD pair because the setup is obvious and clear. The entries and exits are clear. Whereas these BTC pairs, it's like...
I'm sorry, I'm not on margin on either of them, so I'm trading the same thing. I'm just choosing to hold Ethereum instead of Bitcoin in that scenario.
Yeah, I hear you. So if I'm trading on margin and I want to look for a specific setup with a specific trade, yeah, that's just me. Whereas if I'm buying these alts, it's because it's a falling wedge. It's because I think there might be a decent mean reversal type play in the near term. But I'm not necessarily trading the BTC pairs on leverage right now just because the setups are murky.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's take a quick break before we get into the news to say a thank you to our sponsor for this episode, who is Nexo. Go to ledgerstatus.com/Nexo. Nexo is the only provider offering instant crypto credit lines, which you can use digital assets as your collateral to get cash in 45 plus fiat currencies and stablecoins. Right now, you can deposit Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Litecoin, the Nexo token, BNB, XLM, EOS, and now PAXG as that collateral. They offer the ability to earn 8% daily compounding interest on Euro USD, the pound, and stablecoins, which is 130x of what traditional banks offer, and yields suck right now. So you can slap your tethers on Nexo and get some pretty good yield. They compound that daily, paid out daily, and then you can withdraw it at any time. They launched in 2018. Since then, established themselves as one of the world's leading crypto lending services, processed more than 1.5 billion for more than 550,000 users on their platform, and they are insured by audited custodian BitGo, so you can rely on them to keep your funds safe. Go to ledgerstatus.com/Nexo to check it out. If you specifically want to earn on your collateral, go to ledgerstatus.com/earn, and if you want to borrow and take a loan out with Nexo, go to ledgerstatus.com/borrow. Thanks to Nexo for being a LedgerStatus partner. Hey, Josh, there was a little bit of news this week. You don't think it was that relevant necessarily, but I thought it was pretty cool, which is that, well, pretty cool as in, good for them. Binance apparently has acquired CoinMarketCap, and the price on that was severe. I saw there was a report, I think in the block is where it was reported for worth $400 million. There's zero chance that was all cash. Probably a lot of BNB or company stock or something.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about the BNB angle. Yeah, so look, the fact that there's 400 million floating around looking to be invested in a random, what is essentially
400 million CZ bucks. I mean, that's not 400 million USD.
Right, but it's essentially a market cap table, right? Like at the end of the day, it's well known, but it's a market cap table. I haven't used it in the past 2 years. We were talking earlier in the review. Obviously, I work for a somewhat competitor in that BNC has similar product loosely, but I don't know.
They're used differently though. Whereas BNC's is a data product that is, the API is significantly more robust than the kind of free stuff that CoinMarketCap does. CoinMarketCap is where retail people go to look at the price of different crypto assets and see a daily performance summary, and also historically have seen some scammy ads over the years. So, they've got some scars, but I guess the biggest point was, and this surprised me, is CoinMarketCap had apparently, according to the Alexa types, more traffic than Binance has, which is kind of amazing to me.
Yeah, I still don't understand why CZ wouldn't just create a competitor and like, I don't know.
I think it's hard to earn the, like build up that type of traffic, and I guess if nothing else, this allows them to self-advertise in front of a lot of eyeballs once the market has an upswing. And I think we're still basing, if you will, in terms of people paying attention to crypto. So the opportunity for traffic to that site, and then the profit potential for like, having a button that's like buy this and it sends them straight to Binance in their country of choice is a pretty compelling argument, but it's still a super hefty price to pay. I mean, it's a lot of money, and I don't know how much cash they let out from it, but they at least had to offer, stock in Binance itself, which is, what's Binance worth? Like something crazy right now, and it's several billion.
Yeah, allegedly.
8 billion or something like that. There was some crazy number like that at one point.
Yeah, so I mean, good for the people at CoinMarketCap. It'll be interesting if it ever comes out, the details as far as the sale, if they were pursued or if they were actively looking to sell. Because I'm sure that CMC got plenty of offers over the years just because they were the number one place in town to go early on.
Yeah, you see all those YouTube videos, and people got CMC like on the background of their stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, good for them, right?
But no big thoughts on it. Hey, I was actually also quoted, I think last week, in CoinDesk, because Brady over there wrote an article about Steem. We had briefly mentioned Steem forking, but they went through with that, and it turns out the fork of Steem was worth more than Steem for a little bit. I think it's called Hive, and someone was over there propping it up on Bittrex with like a 5 BTC order. So it's nothing real, but another random thing in the land of alternate universes of crypto where something was going on. But it amazes me that still exists. It's like that way down the line. Like Steem's not worth anything. Hive's not, whatever that thing is not worth anything, but an interesting community movement, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, good for them for like,
yeah, they told Justin's son to where to go, and and they forked it. It seems like it's actually might work if the value can hold up. I don't know what it is today, but the fact that it was double Steem for even a little bit was pretty funny to me.
I mean, I've tried to use Steemit over the years. Have you used it at all?
I registered for it. I don't know that I ever wrote an article on it, but when Steem was like pumping like crazy, getting tipped in Steem was actually not the worst ROI in the world.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I just didn't see why it was better than Medium at the end of the day, because that's what it is. Well, just
I don't like Medium at all, but
I know you don't like Medium, but I'm just saying in general.
But I agree. If you're like going to go plop up a post somewhere and you don't really want your own domain, your own website, any of those things, then I don't think Steem was really offering too much on the table other than the fact that you can, snag a tip.
Right. Like it was cool. The same thing with like library.tv or whatever it is, that token and that YouTube competitor. I don't know if you've used it or heard of that.
Yeah, the library. Yeah, the library token.
Yeah, so I've tried to use that. It was too cumbersome, and I don't know, it didn't really make any sense. But on the other side of that is Brave, and they're doing great, I think, in a product side.
Yeah, I think they are. And actually, I have to say, they've been onboarding more advertisers, and it's one of the most tasteful ads that I don't even feel bad about it. But they show a picture on a new tab, and the new tab picture has, something related to whoever is the sponsor. And it's usually like a pleasant picture, but it has some mild relationship to the logo that's on the screen. So it's actually, I don't mind it at all. And they're kind of delivering what they promised, which is amazing for an altcoin. I don't know that the altcoin has a lot of point. And I think they've just recently enabled Bitcoin deposits finally to be able to tip with Bitcoin or tip with Lightning or something. So maybe they're seeing the writing on the wall there too, but I don't know what that means for their token. But yeah, the product side of Brave is still my go-to browser, both on desktop and mobile.
Yeah, I don't think the token has that much of a future going forward, but I'll take Brave all day, or I'll take BAT all day long and sell it
Yeah,
What do I care, right?
you'll be the Zuko of Bat.
Sure. I mean, the last I heard, Brave was looking to do another round of funding
Like equity
raise.
fundraising.
Yeah. Um, I haven't heard too much about that recently, but yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
product.
All right. So there's one other. It's a political thing, but still, I mean, we talk so much about uh, the Senator Loeffler, coming out of Bakkt, being the CEO of Bakkt, being married to the Ice Guy. Apparently, they've sold even more stock than was reported before. Do you think there's anything new to this story, or is it just everybody's condemned her already and there's nothing more? But apparently, they sold like $18 million worth of stock, not just whatever 3 million. And one of the things they bought was a company that makes PPE. So not a good
Yeah.
look for our first crypto senator.
Yeah. The court of public opinion is not on her side. Definitely.
No, I don't think it's gonna. I don't think she's gonna have the best chance at reelection.
Regardless of, if it was completely legal and above board, the optics are just impossible to recover from, I think. But,
Yeah,
what do I know? I'm not a senator, right?
yeah, but it wasn't good. But I thought I'd follow up on it because we did discuss it a bit. Um,
Yeah, I did see a little bit more about that this week. I just thought, ugh, man, this just looks worse and worse. Every headline, it's just, yeah, it's not great.
yeah. One more legacy thing that has been cracking me up lately is, one of the justifications for the Bitcoin ETF refusal was that these are manipulated markets. And what we've seen in the oil market the past few weeks is like icing on the cake to me in terms of, having a double standard, because we're just clearly seeing everybody involved, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and now Donald Trump, with tweets that just pulls out of thin air, talking about oil for the full purpose and only purpose of manipulating the price. And then it works to the degree of, I think oil off the bottom is up like 30% already. And it's just an incredible dichotomy to me to see Bitcoin relative, the complaints about Bitcoin manipulation when we see what's trading in the oil market right now.
I mean, people are afraid of change. People are afraid of what they don't know, and crypto represents all those things. So it's going to have a hard time getting in mainstream financial comfortability, I guess. So yes, I agree with you. It's pretty funny that oil volatility is what it is, and they have plenty of ETFs around that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a mess. We talked about funds shutting down. There's a report in CoinDesk just today of another crypto fund that is shutting down and blaming coronavirus for it. But Cambriel Capital, I don't know this one, but it was just reported. And in terms of another one shutting down, is this bottom things?
Until we see more of that, it's not bottom things. We need.
They're dubbing it Black Thursday, by the way. I didn't realize we've named that Bitcoin meltdown.
Who, CoinDesk or Cambridge or Cambriel, whatever you
Ian
said?
Allison at CoinDesk called it Black Thursday, but I've seen that a few times.
I mean, we need all the coins to die. There's something out about Factom, the coin. They were like a 2015 ICO. Apparently, they are selling stuff. I don't know all the details, but you know how they have like the Factom, not console, but I forget what the term is.
It was kind of like an STO type of thing, wasn't it?
Sure,
I don't remember what the Factom product was.
I'm talking about governance specifically. All the coins have like their own separate offshoot to like control the funding. So yeah, I don't know. It's a dumpster fire. They all are, but we're gonna need to see more of these dumpster fires lit, I think. Because that's the common question, right? Like, do these ETH ICOs have a treasury still? Are they burning like crazy? Are they gonna explode? Is the dev just gonna stop because they can't pay people anymore? Are they going to try to string people along so they can exit scam, that sort of thing? All that stuff's coming.
Yeah. I think what was most amazing to me with the crypto funds so far that we've seen that are shutting down is how it's apparently several of them were not only trading on margin, but really didn't have near the risk management built into their trading systems that you would have expected, like no fail-safe market stop, or or they weren't isolating their leverage in any way to the degree where they were losing that significant of a percentage of their overall fund. I mean, I thought people had to at least be somewhat professional in order to run these things, and I feel like we definitely uncovered some junk with that Black Thursday.
Well, there was one legacy hedge fund, that was down 20% for the quarter. So,
well, that's Ray Dalio's fund.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly risk on when they should have been risk off, right? Like,
yeah, the theory on that one was actually that it was exposing a failure of risk parity, but they got caught off sides.
Yeah, I think you were talking about that last. Excuse me. Got a bit of the Rona.
Gotta be careful, man. Don't get it.
You were discussing that Dalio fund, I think, last podcast, and that risk parity trade or whatever. So yeah, ouch, right? 20%.
Yeah, so the idea is supposed to be that, if stocks go down, the bonds will keep you safe or whatever and go up. But if that correlation goes away, then it messes up a lot of portfolio strategies where then their only option is to liquidate stuff. And it just happens whether they like it or not. So if it's if that breaks down, we got a lot bigger problems. But there was at least a temporary breakdown of it, and also they said their macro thesis got turned upside down. Dalio was the one that was spouting off cash as trash, and cash was doing okay there for a bit. It still is. The dollar's quite strong, and I really respect his macro analysis more than just about anybody. So I actually have some confidence. If I still had to put money somewhere, I'd give it to Dalio, no doubt. But they always catch the headlines because when someone's the super saint, then if you catch them in sin, then you want to talk about it, right?
Sure, but I don't know. I don't know. Like, what are the repercussions for them? Do people just say, okay, is enough, and
well, their investors can withdraw their funds, and apparently Saudi Arabia is a significant investor and has done that, and that makes it to where they have to unwind even more of their position. That's one of the problems that happens with a hedge fund is if you start performing poorly and you compound your losses because you have to liquidate even more of your portfolio at the worst times because your investors are recalling their funds.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense, right?
Which is amazing for the Bridgewater funds because those things have been oversubscribed and had waiting lists forever. Like, it's super hard. It was historically super hard to get in those funds.
Well, not so much anymore, I guess, right?
Yeah. So I think on the legacy front, and I don't know how I feel about crypto having another leg down. I mean, I do think crypto could definitely go down some, like we talked about, but I don't have a strong amount of confidence in the legacy markets right now. Do you think that we're setting up a period where the correlation can break between legacy and crypto, or do you think where goes legacy, so we'll see crypto for a while?
I haven't looked at the correlation in the near term recently, but the 30-day rolling correlation coefficient with SPX and BTC has continued to decrease from basically 100%. Let me just find that, which chart this is.
So it's decreased so that it's no longer correlated as strongly as it was.
Yeah, it's about 77% correlated over the past 30 days. But obviously, it feels like it's still, in lockstep with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'll take time, honestly. If it happens at all, it's going to take months to decouple. I mean, the stuff that's happening with gold and the physical and paper stuff on the COMEX side, that could spill over into crypto when people realize, like, I can't buy gold anywhere because it's just not for sale. Like, what do I do?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that with the physical gold thing. It feels like just a problem because of freight and issues with settlement for physical gold, and I don't take that as seriously. I know a lot of people are saying, like, oh, your GLD ETF is worthless. That's a bet I'll take. It's not. I'm not panicking in that sense. But I know there's a lot of dislocation there because if you can actually get your hands on physical gold, it's trading at a significant premium. I think what interests me in that regard, well, one, that's a bullish argument for Bitcoin all by itself because custody with Bitcoin is much easier to manage. Uh, but then also, is paper gold, if you will, is it going to trade up to the value that we're seeing in physical gold, or is it just going to pull the price of gold down in general as everything starts to reset?
Yeah, I haven't looked at it recently. I don't know if custody is easier, but delivery and settlement is definitely easier. I think custody freaks a lot of people out.
That's fair. I kind of equate the delivery and custody, because
like to you and I, custody is no brainer, but I think to 99% of people, I always compare it to my aversion to custody of metals. Like, I can custody crypto, okay, fine, but the idea of the thought of having self-custody over metals just freaks me out, right? It's like, I don't have a vault. What do I put it in the bank? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think custody is too different between them. Like, it depends on, I mean, how it depends on how many bars of gold you have to sock away somewhere. How much different that is from your ledger or treasure or whatever private keys you manage. But with gold, I still think of part of the custody. That's the fact if you're sending it to custody and taking it out of custody. So that component of it, sending Bitcoin is certainly easier. And other things too, like I've been experiencing this recently. It's all the financial people, the banks, they're not at the bank, and they're super busy with all this bailout stuff that they've got going on now. So if you're trying to work with a banker on your normal stuff of, sending, receiving money, or, questions about accounts and those types of things, like that's another place where I'm seeing a case for the unbanked or, whatever, banking on crypto, things like that, where historically I would have been like, why is this a thing? It's not really a problem. And, now we're just seeing every small business in the world applying for loans and, stacking up in these different lending platforms, making regular traditional banking harder, potential runs on banks for cash, which I think are temporary, but interesting stuff going on in the world that, again, increases our bullish fundamental narrative for Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's like all this traditional stuff has issues still after being hundreds of years old. And it's like, here's this new thing we have that could be used, right?
Oh, yeah. Those paycheck protection programs, one, there's like no restrictions on who can apply. So basically, every accountant was sending out to their clients, hey, if you're a small business, any small business, you need to be applying for this. And then in addition to that, so they're going to get overwhelmed with applications. And how do they even determine? It's going to be first come, first serve, whoever knows the paperwork system best. And then on top of that, I saw a tweet thread yesterday that today's April 3rd. And as of the evening of April 2nd, the night before these lending applications could begin, the Treasury and the SMB were fighting over the application process. And there was not even a finished paperwork workflow for people to go off of. So I don't know how that went off today for that first day of lending applications, but it was a total disaster right up until the last second.
Wow, I totally thought that this government would lock things down.
That they would nail it.
What a surprise.
And then, in addition to that, we talked about last week, but some people, the checks mailed to you could take, I saw a better description of it, but the first ones were going to be like 4 weeks after the initial payments that were direct deposited. And then I think they could print 3 million checks a week or something like that. So from the first day they start printing to the last is a month's difference, several months difference. So somebody that doesn't have a direct deposit from the IRS, it's going to take them up to like 4 months to get their money. But who didn't have a problem at all is somebody on Social Security. The government can just tack it onto their Social Security, and they're the ones already getting the dadgum monthly check to stabilize themselves. So the least needy in this scenario, in my opinion at least, someone already living off Social Security, they get the little bump in their check right away, which is hilarious.
I don't know about least needy, but one thing
not least needy, but like they if you're getting Social Security, I don't care what's Social Security, but they get their groceries paid for or whatever it is.
You're making it sound like it's endless paid vacation, Brian.
No, I'm not saying that. I just think it's ironic. Like, I think the people who are in most need of the quick cash are going to be the last ones to get it. I'll put it that way.
I agree with you there. One thing I haven't seen discussed is, okay, let's say these checks are delayed, and you're not evicted for the next couple months from your domicile or whatever where you live, for rent, mortgage, whatever. But let's say you get evicted before you get your money, which isn't enough to cover rent anyway for most people. Yeah. And then you never end up getting your money because when you got evicted, you don't have a PO box, you don't have a forwarding address, you have none of this stuff, right? Because most people who possibly are under the circumstance don't even realize this is a possibility, or they just go homeless. So that just compounds the problem further.
I think there has to be some back channeling where people are being told, don't you dare evict your tenants, and that's why this whole thing is leading to a necessity to continue to do bailouts, continue to print money, and keep the train rolling until it gets settled, because it's just a disaster all over the place. And we've already seen the first start of that. Trump talking about another $2 trillion for infrastructure, which is fine, whatever. But they're on a pace of $2 trillion a week. I thought I was being liberal with my estimate of printing 10 trillion plus, but shoot, we're promised 40% plus of the way there already.
I mean, didn't he run on an infrastructure plan?
I don't know.
Our infrastructure gets a D- in this country.
Yeah, our infrastructure is bad. I'm not saying it's a terrible place to spend money. I'm just saying, everything's coming out of the woodworks when the economy's in the crapper.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting if the wall gets wrapped up in that infrastructure bill.
Yeah, in terms of the payments and stuff, both of us agreed that we don't think this is going to be necessarily some bullish impulse for crypto. It's not like somebody's going to get there. I don't remember what it is. $600,000, $1,200, whatever it is. They're not going to get that and just dump it straight into Bitcoin. We don't think. But I still want to put it on the chart as a date to know, like, when are these checks starting to go out, and just to keep an eye on it.
I have zero doubts in my mind that anybody receiving the full amount, $1,200 or whatever it is per family, will not be purchasing any crypto at all.
0%. Like, someone out there will spend it on crypto, but I don't know who they are. But nevertheless,
I don't see it.
What'd you write this week?
Man, you got to put me on the spot like that. Grin, which usually gets a lot of more traction than it did. I think alts in general, people just don't even care at this point just because they're down so much again. Monero, Grin, and Doge sort of wrote about these past three.
And what do you have coming up?
I have a Q1 review, which is going to be pretty lengthy, I think.
Yeah, that's always one of my favorites that you do. So people be on the lookout for that. It's a super in-depth entire review of Bitcoin in Q1. So you'll have a bunch of mining stuff and everything else on that, huh?
Yeah, so if you read nothing from me at all, I would read the Q quarterly reviews. ETH, EOS, Atom, BTC, that sort of thing.
Nice.
Yeah. How about yourself? Good. Got anything in the works?
I have no idea what I have going on. I'm just trying to keep my head above water,
Yeah, sure. One last thing. I was looking at this gold chart again, and it's got some pretty large bearish divergences on the weekly and the monthly. That might have played a part in the down move.
You think gold
recently.
does?
Yeah, look at gold on the weekly and the monthly.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, gold's got to grind up. It's not an easy path, technically speaking, and there's plenty of space for a drawdown. But I like gold personally. I still want exposure to gold, exposure to dollars, exposure to Bitcoin, and apparently right now exposure to Ethereum. So we have that going for us. But nevertheless, I appreciate y'all joining us on this episode of LedgerCast, and go to ledgerstats.com for more. Check out Josh's stuff, and we'll catch you next time. In the blink of an eye, the easy river has just run dry. In a house of cards, I feel the breeze
wound so tight I can barely